an effective apology has 3 steps, and different authors might name them differently. I actually like how Beverly Engel names them. Beverly Engel is the author of The Emotional Abusive Relationship and other books about emotional abuse. And she talks about the 3 R's: regret, responsibility, and remedy. So that's nice to remember. So step 1, regret, or we can also say expressing empathy. That goes hand in hand with expressing regret, is step number 1. It's an essential part of every apology. So we need to take enough time to acknowledge the impact our behavior, our words had on the other person. And you can't fake that well either, right? Your apology will sound empty or fake if you're not really feeling that regret, if you're not really feeling that empathy. So making eye contact with the other person, using a sincere tone, heartfelt words. And sometimes people, because we're so not skilled at apologizing, don't even know what can I say that's heartfelt.
Do you have any ways to support people in that who
Yeah,
feel that? It's like, well, I let's just assume that someone feels that regret. They have the emotional component, but now they're just looking for the right words. I can imagine that's a challenge for a lot of people, including myself, in a situation like that can be emotionally charged. So what are some words that people can use as sort of like a go-to, assuming they really do sincerely feel the regret and the empathy?
yeah. So some phrases would be, I regret saying this or doing this. You must have felt XYZ. You must have felt hurt, criticized, unappreciated. So that piece of what must the other person be feeling is really important. You could say, I know this has been hard for you. You must have felt, and again, you must have felt alone, or I imagine you felt alone, overwhelmed, sad. So the moment we do this, the other person goes, okay, this person hears me. My feelings matter. Or you could say, I am sorry you felt. So the empathy piece is huge. When you know what they're feeling, you can say, I understand how you feel, and I'm truly sorry. Or I feel terrible about what I did, about what I said, and I sincerely apologize. Sometimes we feel, oh, these words are too big. They really aren't. A good apology has heartfelt words in it. And then the second step, the second R, is taking responsibility. So taking full responsibility, owning your part, means not blaming anybody, also not blaming myself. Taking responsibility is not about blame. It's also not about self-blame, right? There's a difference between owning what I've done and acknowledging the impact I had and blaming myself. Blaming myself gets me stuck in poor me. Like blaming others also gets us stuck in who's right and who's wrong, who's to blame. So not blaming others, not making excuses, and not even explaining. And that part is sometimes hard to remember.
And I think I can imagine that we, in that moment, really want to communicate where we were coming from in the first place, what our intent was initially.
Yeah,
So is there a place for that? And if so, what does that look like exactly?
yeah, absolutely. This is about wanting to let them know we had good intentions, but generally the person's intent is good. But even a well-meant intention can still hurt, right? So this is totally sidetracking us. When we're explaining, when we're making excuses, it's sidetracking us from taking ownership. Explanations just simply weaken our apology. So do your best not to explain at this point, and just first of all, own the impact you had by doing something. By doing this or that, I see I impacted you that way. You felt this way, you experienced that. So to really own something, I could say something like, I was selfish. Just call it what it is. I take full responsibility for what I did, for what I said, or um, I overstepped and I shouldn't have interfered. So there's so many ways of really just simply saying, this is what I did, knowing the other person also has a part in different interactions, but that's not my business. My business is to take ownership of what I've done. And then the third step is showing our willingness to remedy the situation. Um, we've also heard as children this phrase, oh, I will never do it again. That's completely empty and meaningless unless we know what it takes not to do this again. So we need to come up with a realistic way to avoid this hurtful behavior or a similar situation in the future. So rather saying, in the future, I will X, Y, Z. Or if I'm totally clueless what I can do, I can brainstorm with the other person. I can brainstorm with my partner and I can say, can you help me figure out what I or what we could do to move forward and not repeat this situation?